Hello everyone, it's Sarah, Painting Creator. I'm just sneaking a quick painting session here. We've got grandson stopping with us for a little while, so we might make a joint video, but I did think we would just grab a little bit of Nana time and do a little bit of a quick paint. So I've put my Creative Peak A4 paper on. As I've said before, it's currently on offer in Amazon. I've given my paints a little bit of a spritz. I've also got some Van Gogh Lavender that I might use today, because thought I'd do another lavender field scene. So I'm just grabbing some cerulean blue and a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I'm just going to do a nice gentle wash of a summery sky just to get us going. So this is wet on dry with my big mop brush. And I'm just wetting my brush now, and I'm just taking that wash up. I'm working on a slope of around about, I don't know, 15-20 degrees today. There we go. So I take my paint into the edges because I quite like that little white frame that comes. So I'm going to pick up, my water's on the wrong side for me because we've changed the bedroom round for my grandson. So I'm just picking up a little bit of the turquoise blue. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of cadmium red light in there. And it'll make more like an Air Force blue colour. So that'll make a nice muted colour. If you haven't got any cadmium red light, you could always drop a little bit of burnt sienna in there. There we go. So that's a nice grey colour. Let me find a little piece of practice paper. So a nice light grey colour, slightly blue. It is in the sunshine. Actually, we've got some sunshine here today, which is really, really nice. So I'm just waiting for my sky to sort of go off a little bit and dry a little bit. I don't want it too wet. So I'm just drying my brush off my paper towel. I've washed it, and I'm going to just pick up this paint off my palette. So it's like a thirsty brush really, isn't it? And I'm just going to drop in some distant hills. Nice misty distant hills into that background. Actually, I might bring them a bit further up. Let me just do that mix again. Further up, yeah, that's better. A nice sort of bluey grey colour. Blue always goes well back into the background. I'm just going to drop a little bit of water so it'll bloom into this bit, as if there's a little bit of a sun going over. There we go. And then I'm just going to blend it across. And I'm going to just pause and let that dry a little bit more. Let me just drop a bit of a thicker pigment front of that. There we go, I like that. So I'm going to let that dry and I'll be back with you. So here we are back. I'll do like this little sort of glimpse of light and sun that's come through on this side. And I quite like this sort of mix. We're near enough dry because it's gone flat enough on it. The reason why I lifted it up from here was that I'd gone about halfway, and halfway never looks good. So it's important to sort of think about the composition of where you're putting some of these things. If you wanted, you could drop in some clouds. For me, this painting isn't about the sky, that's just a supporting act. But if you wanted, you could drop in some clouds, you could drop in a little bit more of a dramatic sky. So I'm just picking up some more of that turquoise blue. And I'm going to add some cadmium yellow to that, just to make a really sort of distant bluey green. I need a bit more than that though, because we're on a bigger bit of paper. I'm quite often on smaller bits of paper. Let me do some more. So I'm making, I'll have to do a sort of a bluey greeny colour. Still quite blue because I want it to sit in the distance, so I'm going to just run another sort of hill going in the distance up here. Wash my brush, and I'm just going to add a little bit more yellow into that. So more yellowy green now. I'm just going to drop a few, as if we've got some brighter greens in here. A little bit more yellow, so bringing it mainly yellow. Bringing that forward, there we go. Wash my brush, take some of the water out of it, and then just soften that into the wash and let it dry for a bit. That's beautiful. Look at that transition there. I really like that. I like that stack of the greens and blues coming forward. That's worked really nicely. So there we are. We're dry enough. We're not dry, but we are dry enough. I know I've forgotten to tell you, these are brushes called squirrel mop brushes. These are synthetic ones, they're not real squirrel hair, but they're made, these are made by Meeden. And I do have a set of them. So a large, a middle size and a small. And I use them an awful lot. They have a beautiful point on, and they hold a lot of water and paint in the brush, so you don't have to keep filling them up an awful lot. There are other makes. I'm not sponsored by Meeden, you know, unless Meeden want to sponsor me. But they are really useful. And if you have got any questions about getting started in watercolour, what to buy, then please do get in touch. These are the paints that I mainly use when I'm doing straightforward painting for me, like this. Really nice, for good quality for the price that you pay. And of course you can get other paints, and the paper makes a difference too. And finding what you enjoy and what you like is really important. So as I said at the start, I'm going to use this Van Gogh Lavender in this one. So I'm going to just drop that. Oops, a daisy. That's in got it all over my fingers. I'm just going to drop that into the palette. It's a nice colour, and I can add other colours into that. If you haven't got that, you can mix a light, you know, use that white that's on your set. You can use any of the pinky purpley colours there. In, you know, Purple Lake is beautiful, mauve, beautiful, you know, they are beautiful colours, and I will be using those, but I also want to use a little bit of this lavender. So the lavender is an opaque colour, so it's not very translucent, but it does its stuff. So I'm just putting a little bit of alizarin crimson and lavender together, mainly lavender, just to have that sort of pink highlight on it. And I'm just going to drop in some sort of distant, smishy lavender fields along here. So I'm just dropping them. As always, if you are enjoying the content, if you can like and subscribe and tell your friends, that's even nicer, and that's really helpful. And my grandson keeps telling me off that I forget to, so I've just added a little bit of some purple into that. I'm staying light because it's in the background. Wash my brush, take the water off my brush. I'm just going to soften the bottom of this, and then I'm going to add some dioxidant purple just by itself. Oops, wrong one. That was mauve. Dioxidant purple with a little touch of ultramarine into there, just to make it a bit bluer. Just into the bottom of this lavender field. And then I'm going to add a little bit more lavender into this colour. I'm just going to do another field in front. I'm just going to drop some of that lavender colour in. So I'm looking for that really sort of soft, blended feel of pinky purples. Do the same. I'm just going to add a little bit of ultramarine and the lavender together, just to change the colour up a little bit. I need something to put a water jar on because that rocking is annoying me. I'm just going to add a little bit of Purple Lake into there. It's a bit more of a vibrant colour. A bit more, if you haven't got Purple Lake, you could just add some alizarin crimson in there, and it's a bit pinker. And then I'm grabbing my little trusty spritzer bottle. I'm just going to spritz that a tiny bit. And just let that do its thing. So I'm going to just run some green grass around the edge and probably in there. So I'm going to go again for the same blue base, the turquoise blue. It's important when you're doing things like this that you keep the harmony of the blues coming through. It sort of unites the colour. And so I'm just dropping in some of that yellow, and then I'm just going to drop in a little bit of green into this drying mix. my brush, take some water out of it. I want a thicker mix now, same colours. And then I'm just going to load my brush up and run a sort of a greeny coloured wash down this part. That was run back a little bit too much. Dab it up and drop in a little bit more lavender. That ran back because the green that I had on my paintbrush was had more water than the water that was in the wash, and so it pushes the colour out. I'm just going to blend in that lavender colour across here so it doesn't look like too much of a fix, but you know it's a fix because you're watching. But that's the joy of watercolour, is playing with the light, playing with the fix. I want to keep this light, I want to keep it light but vibrant coloured. So I'm going to now add some Gamboge yellow in, which is a much more vibrant yellow. So much more goldy yellow into that mix, and it's just going to bring a splash of colour to the lavender fields here. Just running it in, and it's like everything, you just need to wait and do that bit of balance. And then I'm going to add a little bit of that turquoise into that, and we get a totally different green. Wash my brush, take most of the water out, I'm just going to run that wash along. Just want that wash to run out a little bit, and then I'm going to do a cooler green, turquoise, and that cadmium red light again into that mix. So we're playing with the warmer, vibrant shades and the cooler, darker shades across the foreground, which will work nicely. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a spritz again. Just going to put it flat, and then a little sprinkle of salt, and then I'm going to have a little bit of a coffee break. I'm just going to put a little bit of salt in this bit at the front. It'll just add a little bit of texture. A tiny bit. So, as you know, it's coffee break time. Time to have a little bit of a breather and let it all settle. Oops. Okay, so we're back with it. I'm just going to rub off this salt. I quite like, it's amazing, this little bit of texture that we've built up, and I like this sort of splash of warmth against this really sort of cool grey colour. Really nice, quite like that. as I do. So I'm now going to paint on some foreground. Let me just reposition this. There we go. So I've got my small mop brush. I've got my number 0 round rigger brush, and I've got my little number 1 round all on hand. So I'm going to start off with my little mop brush, and I'm picking up some Dioxazine purple, which is a really nice deep purple, and then I'm going to put some lavender into there. Then I'm just going to move a clunk over into this one, and I'm going to add some ultramarine into there. Oh, maybe I need a bit more purple into there. I'm just going to add a touch of red light. That cadmium red light is such a useful colour. It sort of takes the edge off. I'm going to add a bit more ultramarine into there. Maybe I need to respritz my colours. Just takes the edge off the vibrancy, does the cadmium red light. I'm just going to add a little bit of indigo, I think, into there. I'll paint a bit of indigo. That's quite blue. So I'm going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson. I'm trying to make a dark purpley colour. Oh, that's nice. So if you can see in the sun. So I've got that sort of nice sort of purpley colour, and I'm going to be really brave, and I'm going to put on some lavender stalks. So just little sweeps across. Getting bigger. Whoops, that's very big. And then I'm just going to drop in a little bit of a different pinky purple and a little bit of this lavender colour, and go for another. So it's not a botanical study. How many times do I say that? It's just some nice little lavender stems. Just going to drop in a little bit of water into there, so it'll have a little bit of a background and go smooth and soft. So this one really quick, just to make it a bit less defined. This is just the lavender. So I'm making up a little lavender bush. I'm just going to add a little bit more alizarin crimson and ultramarine together. Maybe another one. So we're drawing basically a lavender bush in this corner, but we're drawing it with our paintbrush as opposed to add a little bit more ultramarine into that mix, just to get a little bit of a different colour. Maybe another little just picking up little tiny bits. Just going to smush the bottom of that nice and soft. Dropping in a little bit of water, letting it do its thing. There we go, we've got a blobby lavender bush. And then I'm just going to do one that's not quite as defined, but probably some smaller bits. My board's probably now only on about a 10-degree angle. I'm just going to add a little bit of some crimson into there just to change up the so I just wanted some small idea of a bit of a lavender bush that's maybe coming out the front. Then I'm just going to go back into this, so it's very watered down. I'm basically doing blobs just on the front bits of the lavender to add another layer of interest, a different colour. Okay, time to let that just rest in there, and I think I've finished with my lavender, so I'm just going to wipe that off my palette. So that's all gone off my palette, and then I'm just going to get my small mop brush, and I want to mix a more olivey green, so I'm going to use yellow ochre as the base, and still that turquoise blue. It makes a more olivey dark green that will sit nicely with this one. So I'm just putting some loose stems in. So I'm just going to grab my rigger brush now, roll it to get it all up, and then I'm just going to put some loose stems coming through, and then I'm going to put some coming through here. And then my little #1 brush, just to put some leaves in. It's a loose painting, is this? It's not, you're not after perfection. You're just building up that sort of idea that you've got a little bit of a bush going on, leaves going in different directions. Okay, so we're going to go back into here, so I'm going back for a brighter green, so a bit of new gamboge and a little bit of turquoise blue again. Nice bright, but so just gonna, because this is in the foreground, so I'm just adding some, so I'm using my small mop brush flicky colours, flicky movements. So press down and then release, and then you get your nice leaf shape. Just going to add a little bit of ultramarine in here, just to change the tone of the green in the foreground. And remember, the ultramarine granulates out beautifully as well. So just light washes now. Splashing some water and a little bit of paint for a bit of texture. I'm going to go for a really bright, accented green, maybe a bit of a sap green. Let's do some sap green, that'll be really nice. Yeah, some sap green just to come forward into the foreground, a bit of vibrance. Put a little bit along that edge as well. Nice. I'm just going to get my bigger brush. A bit more of that sap green. Near enough straight from the palette. I'm just going to add some little bits into that lavender. To balance, you need the water to let it move, but you don't want too much. That's lovely and soft. Oops, I might have splashed it a bit. Oops, got some splashes. Oh well, never mind. That's just really nice. It's really freeing when you paint like this. It's nice and soft and smushy. And because it's me, I'm going to put some birds into that sky. So just a little bit of indigo. Or maybe one down here. I'm just going to put a dab of lamp black on a couple of the just a bit of water. Encourage it to smush a bit. There we go. A little bit more purple to just define some of the these. So I've got some darkest purple and that indigo. I'm just going to define. Oh, I need my little mop brush just to define some of these more prominent. Another layer. So darkest purple and indigo work really nicely together. Get a bit of darker colour. You don't want them on all of them, you just want some bits. You can always smush it out with a little bit of water. That's nice. A little bit of dark, bringing it forward in front of some of those leaves. So I've watered this down. I'm just going, for harmony's sake, I'm just going to add a little bit into this wash. A really watered down version of that dark. And it might look like nothing, but honestly, when you see it, it makes the difference because you've got that harmony of colour across. And we've got a beautiful little lavender scene. I will let it dry and then I'm going to take the tape off. Always let it dry before you take the tape off. So here we are, we're dry. I'm just going to take the tape off. A little reminder to always peel the tape away from you, because then if it does rip the paper, it at least rips off and not onto your painting. And if you've enjoyed this, if you would like to like and subscribe and follow me, and that would be really great. We're doing me online for some Zoom paint-alongs, which are a give what you can session. If you'd like that information, just type it in the comments and I can let you know when the next ones are. And there we go, a lovely loose springy feel of the lavender fields. So remember we started off up here so that we were well within that top third. If you look, we're around about, so there's a third in this bottom, a third in the midground and a third in the top. So it's quite a simplistic painting in that way, but because this is all blurry, it draws you into this more sort of detailed but not detailed lavender. The eye's drawn this way, and then that's why I popped those birds there. And then remember when right at the start when we lifted out this light part here behind that lavender flower, and there we've got some of our darkest darks against our lightest lights, and so that's where the contrast comes in. So I'm going to just put my name on and the month and the year, because I like to look back at what I've done over time, and the month and the year help me keep a perspective of what is happening for me, because I paint for me, If you'd like to purchase this painting, it will be available on my Folksy shop. And if you'd like to drop me a Kofi, that would be great. I'll put the Kofi link in the chat, and that just helps me keep painting. It keeps funding and encouraging me to keep painting and sharing what I've learned along the way. So have a lovely day, folks, and hopefully I'll see you soon.